My guest today is Curtis Tunt. Curtis is the CMO, which I assume is Chief Marketing Officer at Ohmconnect. And Ohmconnect is kind of an interesting company. They don't build electric cars. They don't build electric bicycles. They're not flying electric airplanes. They're trying to help people save money on their electricity bills. But there is an EV connection here, and we want to talk about that today. So, Curtis, welcome to EV World.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
And it's my pleasure having you here. Look, this is interesting. You guys are essentially a little over a year startup. So because I'm curious about what startups go through, because I'm going through it myself with my own little startup. I always love to hear, the stories as to how these ideas came about, how you brought the team together that is, the company, where you got your funding, those kinds of things. And then we'll get into some of the specifics as to what it is you guys do and how you save electric car drivers money. So give me a little background on Ohmconnect.
Sure, absolutely. So like you mentioned, the company is a little over a year old now. The way that the company was founded, so Matt and I, we actually started working together at a hackathon called at SunCube, which is Solar for Universal Need. And we built this app over the weekend that would time shift when your major appliances run to coincide when there's peak solar. And so we won that hackathon, and that kind of cued us into, there's this kernel of an idea that really kind of interested people. And so what we decided to do was start kind of fleshing out something similar to what we built out at that hackathon. And the fundamental premise is that California's electricity markets have become deregulated. And really, I think that the most important thing is that they're open to third-party participation. So what that means is that users can reduce their electricity usage. And if they reduce their electricity usage when the wholesale markets, right? So this is actually, it's not the retail rates, it's not what us as consumers pay to our utilities, but it's actually the cost of generating that electricity.
All right.
So that's an extraordinarily volatile market. So usually prices are around $20 to $30 per megawatt hour. But one or two times a week that spikes up to maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000 per megawatt hour.
Right.
So
okay.
Astronomical increases. And what we discovered is that we can actually have users respond to those price signals, which beneficially, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to start the company, is that really environmentally taxing, really environmentally damaging power plants are turned on when those prices spike, and actually they're the reason that prices go so high. And what we realize is that we're able to communicate, we're able to get users to reduce, and California, the electricity grid will actually pay users for reducing their electricity consumption during those spikes.
Now, traditionally, this has been something that they would work out with a large company, an aluminum smelter, a local oil refinery, some large automobile manufacturer, somebody that's using huge amounts of electricity. Hey, guys, turn off some machines, and we'll give you a discount on your rate.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you're kind of pooling then a larger base of consumers to also sort of participate in that market.
Precisely.
Okay.
And one of the really exciting things that I think we stumbled on is that, so if you're absolutely right, so if you take a look at kind of commercial entities that are enrolled in programs, somewhat similar to what we do, those commercial sites are, there's only kind of like one site. It's kind of geographically very, very limited. The really exciting thing about Ohmconnect is that our resources, these homes that we have signed up, they're all over the state.
Okay.
So what that enables is that we can respond very targeted from a geographic standpoint. So let's say there's this energy spike in the South Bay in California, right below San Francisco.
Right.
We can actually have all of our users reduce within a really tight, maybe like 2-3 mile radius And being able to respond that quickly, people respond to our program within seconds. That quickly and that geographically targeted is a number one huge economic benefit to the grid. Two is a huge environmental benefit to the grid, and also helps keep electricity stable and kind of economically viable for everyone.
Right. Now, and reading the website, I think you were mentioning in there that these events can happen again, obviously depending on the time of year and what the temperature is out and all these variables and things, but they typically could happen maybe just a couple of times a week. Is that correct? And maybe last for about an hour?
Yes, exactly. So what we find is that these price spikes that are interesting and kind of economically viable to have our users respond to, that happens maybe like once or twice a week. And they do last for the actual price spike is about an hour. Or sorry, the actual price spike is for a time frame shorter than an hour. And we don't need to kind of get into the nitty gritty and the weeds, but
sure.
One of the kind of artifacts of how the market is structured is that we actually have to kind of bid in for a longer period of time, and that's how we can pay our users back. But yeah, it's usually around once or twice a week these events.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, and where this gets really interesting is that the company initially started off as a behavioral platform where we would send text messages, where we would send emails to our users, letting them know, hey, there's this event, this dirty power plant has turned on near your home. Now would be a great time to reduce. And what we found is that after maybe 2 or 3 months of users kind of getting these notifications, they asked, look, I have this Nest thermostat, I have this Ecobee thermostat, I have this electric car. Couldn't you guys just automate my participation?
Right.
So instead of having to, I get a text message, I'm going to go around turning off lights, not make sure that my car is not charging. We discovered that there's a huge demand from our user base, like just automate it for me. And so we spent a lot of our time and a lot of our resources building out an entire automation platform, which actually I'd be happy to share with you on this call. Just letting people connect their smart home devices, whether it's an electric vehicle, and we automatically will turn off that car's charging for that hour period. So when we send these reduction events out that we've kind of branded as ohm hours,
right.
When these ohm hours are dispatched, we'll automatically turn off the charging, and then at the end of the hour, their previous charging set schedule is resumed.
Right. Now, can this happen? Obviously, this would, if it happens, typically on a really warm, summer afternoon, there's a good chance that car is going to be parked outside the person's place of work rather than, at home. Yep. So is there a way to sort of translate that into, the broader, I'm going to go to all the people that have electric cars at Google, and and we can also, not only can we control them at home, but we can do something with respect to those vehicles. And then is that done sort of wirelessly, or is it done through some kind of a linked connection to that charger, or is it wireless to the car?
Great questions. So number one, yes, it's all wireless. Okay. So this happens seamlessly. The whole customer experience is kind of paramount to us. So make it as easy as possible, as kind of little intervention as is needed from the consumer standpoint. And to answer your first question is a lot of these events they also occur during the evening time. Okay. So it actually, and it coincides, well with the charging schedules. And so if we have one of these price spikes, maybe at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock, even in the morning, our users can set their car. Look, I'll have it respond to these events. You don't need to inform me. Obviously, we don't want to be sending out text messages at 2 in the morning.
Right.
So this can happen seamlessly for those users.
Okay. So about how long did it? I mean, so I think you came up, if I remember, you sort of developed the genesis of this thing in around late 2013 or so, mm-hmm. and then you launched, quote unquote. Sounds like you sort of. How much did you get done before you launched which is one of these sort of minimally viable product questions, as opposed
Exactly.
to how much have you developed, since then.
Yeah, so we definitely developed kind of prior to that November 13th, and our official launch was in February of 2014 at the Launch Festival, which is a local kind of startup festival in San Francisco. But kind of within that time frame, we had that minimally viable product where we were really testing how do people like to respond. It was a behavioral platform at that point. It was just text messages, it was just emails. But what it really allowed us to do was figure out kind of where these points of kind of increased and where's the heat, where's a lot of the interest from the consumer standpoint. And what we found is that there was a huge demand from the automation standpoint. And I think that a lot of our users, they're Internet of Things enthusiasts. They're kind of very, very technically oriented. Or not technically oriented, but I would say kind of tech savvy. They handle these devices. And so we found this latent demand for, look, I've spent a lot of money kind of building out this kind of a smart home. And all of a sudden they saw Ohmconnect as a way to, number one, generate recurring revenue for themselves, even kind of subsidizing the kind of the installation cost and the cost of those devices. So since that launch in February of 2014, we've spent a lot of time building out, obviously, the automation hub, where people can connect their smart home. And also what we found is, and this is a bit of a sidebar, not necessarily related to EVs, but one that I personally find really interesting, is that we found a huge, well, it was actually kind of a serendipitous kind of event where we found one of our users so we pay our users through PayPal. Whenever they want to cash out, they just connect their PayPal account. And what we found is that there were multiple payments all to the same PayPal address. And I initially thought this was somehow somebody figured out how to duplicate their account. They're just kind of trying to fleece us.
Right.
And what ended up happening, it was really cool. It was a local elementary school that decided, I'm just going to get all of my neighbors to sign up for Ohmconnect, and instead of personally cashing out, we're going to point everything to our school's PayPal account. And so they're doing,
okay.
Yeah, so they were doing this fundraiser for their school through energy reductions in the community, which we found awesome. We found amazing. That was really kind of like one of the founding tenets of the company, just get people to respond and reward people for taking environmentally kind of responsible actions. And so one of the other, not to belabor it, but one of the other kind of facets of the product that we've been iterating a lot on is that team function, so that nonprofits can start their own team, so that their members can reduce their environmental footprint. That also happens to result in a donation.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that's a great idea. Yeah. So how many people, I guess, and I don't know, you may want to share this, you may not. Obviously, I'm curious as to how many customers you have at this point.
Sure.
But what would be say the percentage of people that are electric car drivers? Do you know that as opposed to this universe of people that you have?
Sure, yeah. So, obviously we do have a pretty large contingent of EV owners. And what we find is that about maybe 33-40% of our users are connected. They have some sort of automated direct load control device connected to the platform. And what we found is that obviously a pretty large contingent of that are electric vehicles, especially out here in California. There's a kind of a big push for EV adoption.
Right.
So around 35-40% of our users are automated. A lot of those are EVs, but also we have some thermostats and some other home automation devices.
Yeah. Well, I noticed in your FAQ you specifically referenced Tesla. Is it just Tesla owners, or can this apply to people with the little Fiat 500e or the Ford Fusion electric car? Obviously, the Leaf is the most popular electric car out there. So, does it apply also to those people, or is it just Tesla at this point?